So she does really hop back on the Dean train. Like, choo choo, let's go. She goes away. Do you like that?
Choo choo. Train has left the station.
It sure has.
One-way ticket.
So, it's more like a round trip. How's it going?
It's going. Hi.
We're trying recording for the first time, and I hate being recorded. So,
yeah. to clarify, we're trying recording video.
Oh, yes. Sorry.
What will be really fun is how many times I look at myself in the camera, like off to the side. I'm gonna really try and just focus on you, but I have that problem.
Yeah.
Where I'll be like, do I look crazy right now? You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I do know what you mean. I am more worried that it'll just look like shit. Like my side's just gonna look fucking terrible. Or like I didn't get the angle right, so the whole time I have like a double chin or something. Probably gonna happen. But that's okay.
I'm probably, like I said, I think I'm more afraid I'm gonna look like I'm like looking off into the void or something. And it's gonna look crazy. But we want to try and do videos, so we're gonna try. Yeah. I just realized, dear God, I have no foundation on.
The light, though, it'll drown it out.
I guess it's helping a little.
Yeah, you're good.
Also, Dayton has the microphone. Oh, thank God. There we go. He had the mic like plugged into the back, and I couldn't get the cord.
Move.
Yeah. So hi.
Hey.
All right. I don't know, Aimee, do you have anything you want to say before we get started? Any fun, like, in my life?
In my life, there's been heartache and pain.
Wow, that was worth it.
Okay, I'm done. Well, I guess no. I want to start by saying I did not split up the Jess episode appropriately. I really, really thought he was in more after they broke up, and he's not.
He left that strong of an impact that we really thought he was in more than he was.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, because he does continue having his own little thing going on when they're broken up. And I guess for me, that was enough to think that he's in like every episode after. So I was wrong. And this episode will not be nearly as long. And then when I re-listened to the Jess episode, I'm like trying to just jam everything into that one episode. And I'm like, bro. Could have just split it up a little bit better, but here we go. There'll be more chit chat. Yeah, in this one, I suppose.
Also, because I mean, no regrets because I think just part 1, even though I in the episode called it just part 2 twice.
Oh yeah,
just part 1 was great, so I stand by that. I think you did amazing, slam dunk.
Okay, well, here goes part 2, I suppose. Do you have anything that you want to say about yourself and your life?
I don't know. Life update. I'm teaching little kids how to play soccer.
Cute.
Which is funny if you know me because I've never played soccer in my life. So,
but never have they.
Neither have they. My skill level is more than a 5-year-old, and that was the bar. So here we are.
That's all they needed. Mm-hmm. Let me give you. Let's do a little recap. Let's do a little recap, shall we?
I would love to.
Just part 1. We meet Jess. Jess is Luke's nephew. His mom couldn't deal with him anymore because he's a cigarette smoking, card dealing bad boy from New York City, and she could not handle it. Mm-hmm. So he comes to live in Stars Hollow with Luke. He meets Rory. Him and Rory have a tumultuous courting because she has a boyfriend who is like the exact opposite of Jess. So her liking Jess means obviously that the boyfriend is not on trend anymore, and she's going to eventually dump him for Jess, which is what she does. Well, I guess she's dumped.
Dean dumps
You're
her.
right. Yeah.
She definitely led the path, though, to the dumping.
She did that thing where you just ghost and like totally make your partner feel inferior until they feel like dumping you.
Yeah.
So then she dates Jess. Jess stops going to school because he is working and he thinks that's more important. So then he finds out that he's not going to graduate. And that was like the whole thing. That was the deal. He had to graduate or he couldn't stay with Luke. So if he's not going to graduate, Luke kicks him out. He goes to live with his dad in Santa Monica, which ultimately means that him and Rory break up. Rory goes to college. Then, shocker, things weren't working out in Santa Monica, and he wants to come. He wants to come back. So here we are, part 2, season 4, episode 12, A Family Matter. So Liz, Jess's mom, has come to town because she's doing better. Okay, so people like Liz, you know, they'll get a new boyfriend, they'll get a new perspective, and then they'll want to, you know, patch up old wounds. So Liz has come to town to talk to Luke and basically just be like, I'm doing better, and like, blah, 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 blah. And then Luke is like, yeah, are you dating somebody? And then it's ultimately like, yes. And she's like, you have to meet him, you're going to love him, blah, 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 blah. And then Luke ends up asking her about Jess because he was just like, hey, have you seen your son? Because I sure haven't. And he was like, Liz is like, yeah, he's living with his dad in Santa Monica. It's fine. And he was like, oh, it's fine. You know, because remember how Jimmy ran out on him when he was like a toddler and then like dropped back in when he was 18 and now they're living together? Like, no. So obviously, Luke is upset. But then Luke ends up telling Liz where he is stashing Jess's car because he gets on a bus to Santa Monica. So the car was just left at Luke's. And I'm burping.
You're doing great.
So he ends up telling Liz where he stashed the car. Liz turns around and tells Jess where he is stashing the car. And then suddenly, like literally a couple hours go by and Jess is trying to take his car away, but it breaks down like on the side of the highway, like 10 minutes outside of Stars Hollow. And then the sheriff is in like, the sheriff is like, why can't I think of the word? Towing him back to Luke's diner. And then, Jess and Luke begin to argue, and then Luke asks Jess where he's been staying. Or no, I'm sorry. I need a break. I need to take a second. Just a second. Can we take time? The pressure. It's like I've committed a crime. I'm like sweating. I'm like, wait, hold on. I need a break.
The officers are like, do you need some water?
Woo! Man. Oh, off topic, but kind of on topic, but off at the same time. I've been watching Parenthood.
Oh, yeah?
It's so much better as an adult.
I should really, I mean, I've never finished it, but every time I listen to Armchair, I think I should really finish Parenthood. And then I just don't.
Yeah, well, I finished Gilmore Girls, obviously, because I needed to see all of Jess. And so then I was like, you know what? I bet Parenthood's good. And it just wasn't good when I was 12. Understandably. So I turned.
You couldn't relate?
Good. I couldn't relate. I was 12. But honestly, I think you're Sarah, Lorelai's character, Mae Whitman's mom.
Yeah.
And I'm either Julia, Hayden Christensen's sister, or I'm Crosby. I can't decide. because I don't agree with Julia on a lot of stuff, but how she is as a mom is exactly how I feel like I would be as a mom.
Yeah, that makes more sense because when you said that, I was kind of like, I don't see you as Julia at all. It has been a while since I've watched, but you as Crosby kind of resonated.
Yeah,
So.
and also Crosby and Sarah are close.
Yeah, they're the besties.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll have to rewatch. I also haven't finished This Is Us.
I haven't either, but it got disappointing during COVID.
Yeah, see, I haven't watched it for like 3 years, so I don't even know.
Oh my God, the COVID one, during COVID, I feel like you're going to get mad.
Right. Can't wait.
They really go, they go fucking in on the COVID shit. And I'm like, bro, I understand this is like real life in real time, but like, why?
You're like, none of us wanted that.
I know, act like it's not happening.
Like all of the other shows.
Like all of the other shows. I'm like, no, this is not how we want to bond. Anyway, okay, so I guess going back in. Let's see, where did I leave off?
Jess and Luke were at the diner arguing.
So they're arguing because he was just like, "Oh, you're gonna run out," and then he was just like, he was just not really. They're kind of yelling at each other at the same time. Nothing really is coherent. Then ultimately, like, Luke's like, "Where are you gonna stay?" Because he has to get the car fixed or he can't leave town. And he was like, "Back seat is as comfortable as anywhere." Okay, it's Stars Hollow in like early winter. So it's like 30 degrees. And then Rory and Lorelai are coming home from Friday night dinner. And Rory sees his car. And she walks up and sees him sleeping in the back seat. And she tells Lorelai that she just can't handle this. And she walks away. And I'm like, I'm sorry. If I saw my ex-boyfriend sleeping in the back seat of his car in 30-degree weather, and even if it did go down the way that it went down with it, where like he just went away and then like didn't really talk to her anymore, I would be like, I understand why she's mad, but I would be like on the window, and I'd be like, get the fuck out of the car. Yeah. Come on. What are you doing? You try to kill yourself?
Come sleep on our couch.
Come sleep on my fucking couch. And then she could get some fucking closure. They could talk, because he would have talked to her. If she had done that, he would have gotten out of the car. He would have gotten out of the car because it was Rory.
Yes.
So her just being like, I can't handle this, and walks away. I'm like, you're a heartless bitch. What a selfish little bitch. Okay, so then Lorelai is like, I'll take care of it. And she goes to Luke and she's like, hey, do you see Jess outside in his car? And he's like, yep. She's like, are you going to do something about it? Because he could die. And then ultimately they bicker, and Luke comes to his senses, and he tells Jess that he's going to go stay the night at Luke's. The secret key is in the same place, and the apartment will be empty all night. So then once Luke drives out of sight, Jess runs inside. So thank God that he's not so fucking stubborn that he'd die.
Get hypothermia out of spite.
Yeah, oh my God. But I just could not believe that's how Rory reacted. Actually, that's not true. I totally believe that is the way that Rory would react, but that is why I don't like Rory. And I'm not trying to say like, oh, he went, he's he's toxic, but like if you loved him, you would do this. Like, I'm not trying to like shame her or whatever, but like that's not how I am. Like, even if I don't like you, if I know you so well, I'm probably gonna be like, get the fuck out of the car. Well, yeah. Like, come on, dude. You're not going to sleep like this. Also, I would recognize that they were at a place of total vulnerability, and that could be my opportunity to help them and then be able to, like, maybe learn a little bit more about him. I just feel like in those circumstances, someone like Jess, like, that would be the time to talk to them.
Yes.
You know, like, I don't know if that's emotionally manipulative. It sounded weird when I was saying it. But I'm like, but like okay. So I think it's because she had such a reason to be mad at him. And he is so emotionally stunted and socially stunted that for her to be able to put her anger aside for a second and show him that she still cares about him,
yes,
that would make him open up.
Yeah. I think what you're saying is in that moment, like, you didn't have any impulse to be like, oh my God, come inside. What is wrong with you? Where have you been? You know?
Yes.
Because that's
I think.
Oh.
No, go.
Well, I was going to say, because if it were like Lorelai and Christopher, she'd have been like, what are you doing? Get in the house. Are you being dumb?
Right, exactly. And then Christopher would probably open up a little bit about, at least what's been going on and what he's been thinking. Because obviously, if he's gotten to this point, lots of things have gone against him. So then I don't know. So I just feel like that would be the time where he'd be so grateful that she was there for him and willing to be there for them, that he would explain what was going on with him. And you see, like, as the episode, or like in the next couple episodes, you see like he tries. So like, okay, we're gonna move on. Season 4, episode 13 is called Nag Hammadi, is where they found the Gnostic gospel. Amy's Sherman Palladino.
That is the full title of the episode?
That's the full title of the episode.
I'm not gonna lie. After 2 words, I fell off. I don't know what you said.
Yeah, your brain just kind of goes. So Jess is attempting to push his car to Gypsy's repair shop, and it takes 4 men in total and basically shuts down traffic in the square. So Luke is stuck in traffic, and instead he just decides to get out of his car, and he walks over and is just taunting Jess the whole time that Jess is pushing the car. Just cause he thinks it's funny. And in the square, Kirk and the whole crew are getting ready for the Winter Carnival, which is something we've seen several times. Rory and Dean go, then Rory and Jess and Dean and Clara go. So this is common thing happening again. So Jess finally gets his car to Gypsy's, and Gypsy says she's going to overcharge him like she's never done before, and Jess is like, whatever, dude, I just want to get out of here. And then he turns, and there's this girl with long brown hair, and she's wearing brown corduroy pants, and she looks basic, and he's like, Rory. And Gypsy goes, she cut her hair. And then he turns around and he's like, what are you talking about? And she goes, it's not her. She cut her hair because Rory cut her hair. Okay. Yes. And it was a big deal. Anyway, so Liz decides that she's going to cook lunch for her boys and basically force them all to meet. So then while he's waiting for his car, Jess decides to go to another coffee shop that is not Luke's because he is trying to avoid Rory. At this moment, or just maybe he knows the kind of like wave it's gonna make if he just is there. So he's trying to be like kind of incognito. But he goes to the exact coffee shop that Rory decided to go to that morning. They bump into each other, and then he just goes, I'm leaving. And then he walks out. So then
casual.
So then at this point, we flash back to Luke's diner. And Liz is introducing Luke to her boyfriend, TJ.
Yes, I couldn't remember his name.
It's TJ.
It's
love
perfect
TJ. For him. I don't know if you all have ever watched Wizards of Waverly Place.
Yes.
But the guy who plays the dad, he has a brother who is TJ.
He has 2 brothers.
So
his other brother is in 21 Jump Street with Johnny Depp.
Right. I mean, he has another brother. I wasn't trying to say he only had one other brother.
He has one brother. It is TJ.
Yes. So just imagine a guy like that when I talk about TJ.
Got it.
Lovable. So then TJ is excited to meet Luke, and he's really goofy, and like Luke is just not as easily flattered. And then Jess shows up, and it's this whole awkward moment. But Liz is like, "Oh, my boys are together," and she's like so excited. And so eventually Jess can't stand this, runs away. He goes to a bookstore. He's reading. You don't really see this happen, but you see Jess leave, and then the next we see him, he's on the floor of the one bookstore in Stars Hollow, and he's like hiding in the bookshelves, and he's reading. Okay, well, guess who also likes to read?
Kirk.
Son of a bitch. Rory. So
oh my
Rory
God,
shows up. Yeah. So Rory shows up and he's like, oh my God. And he's like, I'm going. And he runs away again. And neither time does she stop him. And it takes like the first time he was right by the door. He just turns and leaves. I get why you'd be like also shocked. And then, maybe you don't react that quickly. The second time, he has to get up off the floor. He has to return the book that he's reading. He has to get his things. And you're just like standing there like, what is going on? Like, I would be like, no, stop right now. Let's talk right now.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's why I'm not in a show.
It's like
that's not cinematic at all.
Well, but it is. No, it is interesting that, like, I guess he did leave without saying anything. So I understand her taking the approach of, I'll wait until you decide to say something.
Yeah.
But also, like you said, come third time around of, these happenstances where you've just met without trying and he's still not saying anything. And he's clearly leaving because he thinks you're mad.
Mm-hmm.
You would think she would be compelled to be like, are we really going to keep doing this?
Yeah. Yeah. Like you said, like first time you're like, oh, you're almost surprised.
Right.
And the way she reacts is totally like how anyone would. But then I think it's just the second time she's sticking to the, oh, you have to leave.
Like, she's being very passive and bitchy about it.
Yeah, she's just avoiding it because, she's a Yale girl now and she needs to, she has other things to distract her. She needs to stay focused, but whatever. So later that night at the Winter
has short
Carnival.
hair now.
Yeah,
no
I
worries.
got my hair. I'm changed.
I cut my hair and you haven't even said anything, Jess.
Yeah, right. Oh my God. So Jess and Rory bump into each other again at the Winter Carnival, and then Rory just goes, no, and then she starts running. And Jess just like runs after her. And he was like, what are you doing? And she's like, I'm going to be the Wonder Way. This is my town. And like, blah, 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 blah. And then he finally catches up to her. And Rory just like rips him a new one. She's like, what could you possibly have to say? And he's just like, I love you. And then he back runs away and gets in his newly fixed car and drives off.
Moonwalks away.
He panic moonwalks away and then gets into his car and runs away. But I just love that, like, so I mean, when I was watching it, I was like deep into, I'm like watching the whole show through Jess's lenses, So I'm thinking like, oh, like, he said, I love you. Like, oh my God. Like, he's just like, he's so conflicted. Can't you tell? Can't you see? That's why he's so conflicted and everything's so hard, because he loves you. Okay. But from the outside perspective, I'm just like, dude, why are words that hard for you? Like, why are they that hard for you? You could have said so many other things, but you're just going to say that and then you're going to run away.
Yep.
So, okay, well, Jess is not me. So season 4, episode 20 is called He Can See Her Face. So Liz and TJ are getting married. You actually, like, over the gap of episodes, there's like a 7 gap episode, like that leap that I just did. You see Liz and TJ like become like a really good couple, and TJ is really, really trying, and like he has like the confidence and bravery of a child, and so he's able to even like break through to Luke a little bit. And yeah, it's really beautiful. They really are so good together.
Isn't it what does it for Luke and TJ is like TJ builds that shelf for the diner, and it's actually like a really good shelf,
and he uses it. Yeah,
and so then Luke like respects TJ. It's really cute.
It's really cute. I need to like adjust my chair really quickly. Okay. So
TJ and Liz are getting married.
And they invite Jess, obviously. And he says he's not gonna go. And Luke is like, what the hell do you mean he's not gonna go? And she's like, he's young, and he's mad at me or whatever, and it's fine. And she's really cool with it, which is good, because who would not want to go either?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've known this about Liz, is there's always a guy There's always a guy, and he's always the one, and he's always changing everything in her life. So I would just have no patience for it. And I wouldn't go to make her think I approve.
Right.
So I think that's what Jess is thinking. But Luke is outraged. So he drives to New York City because that's where Liz says he's staying. And he walks in on Jess living in absolute squalor. He's a bike messenger, but his life doesn't seem as cool as Joseph Gordon-Levitt's in that one movie where he's a bike messenger.
What's it called?
Like
Premium Rush?
It's something wild.
Our dad loves that movie a lot.
It's a good movie. It's fun. Yeah, he lives like in a studio apartment, but there's like 3 boys in it. So it's like each boy has like a corner where they have like an air mattress cot situation and like a nightstand. It's disgusting. It's really gross and sad. So Luke is like, wow, look at this place. And he's like, ooh, you got the corner with the molds. Wow. Well, you have really made it. Just like absolutely rubbing it in his face.
Mm-hmm.
And he tells Jess that he has to come to the wedding for Luke's sake, not Liz. And then because they have this whole argument, he's like, why would I go? Like, why would I support that? There's always a guy or whatever, like I had said before. And then Luke is like, fine, you don't want to go for your mom? Go for me. He said, I've done a lot for you, Jess. I have tried. I'm one of the only ones who has tried. So come for me. And then, like, the next scene, Jess walks into the diner with his infamous Army duffel.
Yes.
And he says, I'm not paying for a motel. I'm staying with you. And he goes upstairs. Right.
It's not what Luke wanted at all.
This is also the time where Luke and Lorelai, they are talking at the diner one day. Or not the diner. They're talking at the Dragonfly. Because she had called Luke in to look at the sink. Mm-hmm. It's like leaking or something. And she breaks the news to him that her and Jason have just broke up.
Thank the fucking gods.
Cats came to her house that morning because they can tell. They can smell it. She's desperate. She's single, you know. So she's like spiraling. Cats. And then she's just like, why doesn't it work out for people like us? They have that moment where they're talking about their shared struggles. And I think this just inspires Luke to like take action. And he goes to a bookstore and he buys self-help tapes like that people buy like when they struggle to find love. And he starts listening to them and he's really like grumpy at first and resistant. And then eventually he like gets into it and it's adorable. It's adorable. It helps him like vocalize his feelings. And so he's like preaching to Jess while he's in town. They go to TJ's bachelor party, Luke and Jess. I'm assuming are strip clubs like 18 and over?
It might depend on the state.
Okay, because it looks like they're at like it looks like they're at like a mud wrestling bar, like ladies wrestling in mud, but it's like a bar. So I was like, how did Jess get in? I don't know, but either way.
Some bars allow underage up to a certain time and you just have to get a stamp on your hand. So it could have been like that type of deal.
Yeah. Okay, so they're at this mud wrestling place for TJ's bachelor party. It's a big deal that Jess even went. Even though he sits at a different table and just reads a book, it's like such a huge gesture that he went. TJ attempts to bond with Jess, which leads to the two fighting because TJ, like I said, is confident and brave like a child, and Jess is cynical. He's like Loki, you know, like he will taunt you into a full on fight. So that's what happens. They fight. And then Luke and Jess have a heart to heart at the diner after the party. And Jess confides in Luke, tells him that he told Rory he loved her. And that's partially the reason that he came back for Liz's wedding. And so Luke gives Jess the self-help books. It's beautiful. Season 4, episode 21, last week's fights, this week's tights. So everyone in the square is preparing. It is clever. Everyone in the square is prepping for Liz's wedding, and Lorelai walks through the crowd and sees Jess in his natural habitat reading on a bench. So they share like an awkward eye contact, and she beelines the other way. And the camera pans around Jess to show that he's reading the self-help books, but he's using one of his like books to cover it. Then later at the wedding, Jess walks Liz down the aisle. Luke catches Jess before he leaves town, and he thanks Jess thanks Luke for everything and says he's going to pay him back. And he quotes a line out of the book that Luke gave him, and he gives him a hug, and he leaves him his cell phone number. So Jess really, really grew up. Like, it's funny that these like chicken noodle soup for the soul books like really helped these two like lost souls. Yeah. So then on his way back to New York City, he stops to see Rory at Yale, but the stupid hussy called up Dean for a ride home from her terrible date. So then her and Dean, married Dean, are walking around Yale.
Married Dean.
Married. Okay. They're walking around Yale. She's giving him like a tour, which is such a fucking move from Rory. She basically could have just like pulled down her pants. Like that was pulling down her pants, but Rory style. And so then Dean, like, of course, yet again, Dean is there when Jess is trying to be with Rory. So he simply ignores Dean's presence and asks to speak to Rory. And Dean gets all huffy and leaves. And then Jess asks Rory to go away with him to New York. But Rory rejects him. Okay, because I mean,
understandable.
Okay.
She is in college.
Yeah, she's in an Ivy League school and like her whole life is depending on this. I get why she didn't want to go. But and it's just so sad though, because to him, like that was it. That's what was gonna like put him on the right path. That's what he's been needing. And like he's like, he even says to her, don't say you don't want to go unless you really don't love me. And then she just goes, I don't want to go. And then he's like, okay. So then he's leaving rejected. And also he really thinks that she doesn't love him. So that's great.
Yeah.
And maybe she doesn't. I don't know where her heartless soul was at. I mean, I think she was already back on the Dean train at that point.
I think she was. And she wasn't over. I think she wasn't over just leaving. Because she's still young and dumb at that point. And like, Dean again has come into her life and he seems like such a provider, which he's always had going for him. That's Dean's thing. And that probably felt so nice, especially in the wake of Jess up and abandoning her. So,
well, it also just feels nice, I'm sure, because she never had a dad, really.
No. Yeah, she has hardcore daddy issues.
Yeah, so
they're very apparent.
Yeah, so we have to jump ahead like a lot. So I'm just going to quickly fill you in on what happens with Rory's life.
Sounds great.
So then you just know where she's at when Jess comes back into the picture. So, okay. So she does really hop back on the Dean train. Like, choo-choo, let's go. She goes away. Do you like that?
Choo. Train has left the station.
It sure has.
One-way ticket.
So, it's more like a round trip. It always is with Dean. She just goes away eventually. So she goes to spring break, like Florida, Miami, Florida, like South Beach, whatever. Spring break, and she gets really drunk, and then the girls on the beach are like, "Oh my god, okay." The girls on the beach are flashback the oh my god, what are their fucking names?
Louise and Madeline.
Louise and Madeline from Chilton. So they're like, are you still with Dean? God, Dean was so gorgeous. And she's like, oh no, he's actually married now. And then they make her call him and like leave a really embarrassing voicemail
because they're they're super drunk.
Oh, they're super drunk, and the stakes are unbelievably low for them. Like, why the fuck would they care? So it is all in good fun if they really weren't like already flirting with each other. So that was not something she mentioned. So he calls her back. He's like, hey, I got your voicemail. And like they have a flirty conversation.
Like you were having fun.
Yeah. Gross. So then that continues. Like they just flirt for a while. And then he's working on the inn at this point, the Dragonfly Inn. He's like a construction worker, so they see each other a lot because like every time she comes home to see Lorelai, he's there. And then at the opening of the Dragonfly, Rory leaves to go get like some CDs from the house, and Dean follows her, and they just full on have sex.
Yep.
They full on have sex in her childhood bed. I know I talked about it in the Dean episode, but that's where we're at. All right. So then we move through that whole Dean thing because eventually she meets Logan at Yale, and Logan becomes her new boyfriend. He shows her new and exciting things, and she just gets spoiled to that. He can't keep up. He's out of the picture. The perk of dating Logan is his dad like runs the Stamford Gazette, right?
Yes.
Which is like a pretty big newspaper. I think any newspaper that's in like the Northeast is like big.
Oh yeah,
that just feels like
it's kind of
newspaper.
Like where journalism just like took off.
Really, yeah. It's like that's the newspaper place. So it's like a big deal. And she gets an internship at the Stamford Gazette because one day she goes to Logan's house and they basically reject her. They're like, she's not good enough for you, Logan. And the dad feels bad, so he offers her the internship. And she's like, wow, okay, like maybe like I do belong in this family. I can prove I belong by being so good at this job. But then like at the end of the internship, Logan's dad is just like, you don't have what it takes. And then his opinion, the first negative opinion that she's ever gotten in her whole life, since her reeling, and she steals a yacht and gets arrested, and then she drops out of Yale because she feels so lost. And so obviously Lorelai is like, if you're dropping out of Yale, you can't stay here, because she's like, I cannot support that. That is so stupid. So then she goes to live with her grandparents. Okay, so here we are. We caught up. Season 6, episode 8 is called Let Me Hear Your Balalakas Ringing Out. So Rory is staying at her grandparents, and it has officially lost all appeal. Not really a big surprise there.
Shocker.
When she first got there, like her presence was so welcome that she got to stay in the pool house. And then they even renovated the pool house because it was like very like a 1960s masculine vibe, and they redid it so it was more young girl living in the 2000s. It was like her own little house, but then they found out that her and Logan were having sex in the pool house, so then she was forcibly moved back into the main house. So now she's obviously done with this. And her Logan gets the gang together for one last hoorah before he has to go to Omaha to work with his father's company. And Rory gets back to her grandparents' house after the hoorah because Logan gets so drunk that she basically has to like pour him into the car and like take him back to his apartment. So obviously she's like not feeling like hanging out, goes back to the grandparents' house, and Jess is there because he says Luke has told him where she was staying, and he wanted to show her the book that he wrote. He's on tour, like pitching his book to independent bookstores to see if they'll sell it. And he just thought maybe while he was in town, you know, this would be it was like the only way that they could amicably like talk.
Yes.
You know, like sharing a book. And then he was like, and you're the reason that I was able to do it. That's why I wanted to come show you. So it's like had she not believed that there was something special about him, Jess would probably just be like, just not as motivated.
Yeah.
You know, so I think even though they don't get together, she still like motivates him. And
like you said from the beginning in just part 1, when she says something to him about like, why are you acting like this? Like, it's affecting everyone. And that actually resonates. Like, he just has always respected her outlook and what she thinks.
Yeah. She, like, at the very least, is able to phrase it so much better than everyone else. Like, explain it to him in a way that makes sense. So, she tells him that she's taking a break from Yale. He's like, he just can't wrap his head around that. But ultimately, he asked to see her again before he leaves town. And she says yes. So then Jess comes back to pick her up for their hangout, and Logan drives up. And like basically has like peas on Rory and is like, why don't we all go out together? And so they go to the bar that Logan and Rory always go to. And Logan is just a giant ass at dinner, prompting Jess to walk out. Logan just like basically just makes fun of like him, everything about him, like everything that he does, like the book.
Yes, because heaven forbid, for once in Logan's life, he feels intimidated by someone.
My God, yeah. I think he even takes a dig that Jess didn't graduate.
Yes. Like,
well, actually, no. At first, you don't even realize. You realize that Logan didn't realize that Jess and Rory were dating.
Yes. No, and that's why suddenly Logan gets like mad and intimidated, because I think he's upset with Rory for not just being honest with him. Like, why wouldn't you tell me? Now I feel like something's sketchy. And then he has to feel like he has to overcompensate and put Jess down. Because you're right. Yeah, Logan's actually pretty amicable there at the beginning.
Like, he can tell that something's up, and like, why would she not have mentioned she was hanging out with him? But then like he asks, I think, like where he's going to school and like all these kind of sensitive questions that he wouldn't really necessarily know are sensitive questions.
Right. Because he doesn't know him at all.
He doesn't know him at all. But then eventually he figures it out, and Jess walks out. And Rory follows after him, and then Jess like slaps some sense into her, metaphorically. He's just like, what are you doing? And she's like, what? He's just like, he's drunk. He's having a bad night. And he goes, no, Rory, why are you not going to Yale? And then he just goes on this, like, he just can't understand, like, the guy or her situation. He's like, not talking to your mom? Like, what? Who are you? And she's like, I don't know. And then she just like, and then it's like, it hits her. She's like, oh, I don't know. Like, I don't know who I am. I don't recognize myself anymore. So then season 6, episode 18, The Real Paul Anka. So Lorelai gets a dog, and she names him Paul Anka. And then she has this like dream where Paul Anka, the dog, and the real Paul Anka are in it. And so the dream is like, it takes a long time to explain. So I think that's why this episode's called that. So Luke and his daughter, April, surprise, are on a school trip. Yeah, spoiler. Are on a school trip in Philadelphia. They stop by Jess's bookstore. So Jess has opened a bookstore with these other two guys. And they're having a poetry reading. And so Rory shows up as well. You know, it's kind of a big deal.
Yeah,
huge. So it's a huge deal. So obviously these two like huge people in his life would show up. So she ends up staying after everyone has left, and her and Jess catch up, and Jess asks if she fixed everything. And Rory says yes, because at this point Rory has gone back to Yale. She moved back in with Lorelai. Well, she moved back in with April, but when she goes home, she gets to go to Lorelai's.
You said April. You meant Paris.
Oh my God.
She and April, they get a place.
Yeah. Goodness. Yes, she moves back in with Paris.
Yeah.
And so it's like everything was how it was before. She's on track. She's good. So she says yes. So then Jess kisses her, and then Rory panics, and Jess realizes that she's still with Logan. She didn't really recognize that, you know, that problem needed to be fixed. And Rory says she can't help it. She's in love with him. And Jess says maybe he'll call up one of the poets and have them explain love to him. They seem to know all about it. And I'm like, this poor baby. He's like, wow, all right. Like, you're willing to overlook all of his problems. And yeah, I guess you really didn't love me. Like, holy fuck. So then that's really it. That's all. That's the last we see Jess. Yeah. Like that, do you see now how ill proportionate like these parts are? This one's so short.
I mean, well, but the thing is, I think, in your mind, you're also thinking about the revival season, because Jess is in that. Also, like you said, he's talked about so often.
A lot, yeah.
He's consistently on your mind watching the show. So I think it does feel like he has more screen time than he does. Also, Milo just does that good.
Yeah, he really does that good. But also, I did watch the revival as well. And basically, he's just used. He's used as a tool to steer Rory back on path.
Yep. How dare they?
Like he did before.
Yep.
With the whole Yale thing. Like, he comes in
Justice
and Rory,
for Jess.
Justice for Jess. But in the revival, Rory is a mess.
Surprise.
Put your shock face on. Yeah, I am surprised. But she basically, like, she became a journalist. She did the things that she wanted to do. And then it's like all of a sudden it's like everything kind of blew up in her face and she's destitute and she needs to move back to Stars Hollow. She's living in her old bedroom. And then she's like desperately looking for a job, but nobody wants her. So then she gets a job at the Stars Hollow Gazette. And the Stars Hollow Gazette is a joke newspaper. I spit. A joke newspaper at this point. It's like there's only 2 people working there and they just do like clerical work. So it's like, what's going on with the newspaper,
right.
you know? So she asked Taylor if she can be the editor and he's like, hell yeah. And so then she's working there. And then it's like, girl, that should be the point where you're feeling a little bit better. But then she starts to spiral because she's just like, oh, I'm so pathetic. Like, I could have been a contender.
Nothing
and,
is ever good enough for her.
No, nothing is ever fucking good enough for her. It's like she's assuming someone is watching her at all times. And if she's not achieving absolute world-renowned excellence, then she is failing. And it's exhausting.
Because think of what you could do with the Stars Hollow Gazette, Rory. Make it an amazing, credible paper.
Well, and she loved the Stars Hollow Gazette.
Yes, she read it. She had a subscription. She was like the only one in town.
I actually think her moving back to Stars Hollow and doing that is the most Rory thing.
Yes, I loved that. And then I was so mad that they made her have like an existential crisis about it.
And it was stupid. But Jess walks into the newspaper and says, Luke said you were here. Once I'm back in town because Liz needs help. So I just wanted to check on you. And then she's just like, I'm a failure. And then he was just like, you know what you should do? You should write a book. That's what helped me. And you're just like me. It's going to make you feel so much better. You should write a book about you and your mom.
Oh, yeah.
Because that is like such a unique story. And it's only one that you could tell. And so then that's ultimately like what makes Rory feel better. And she gets put back on a good path and she writes a book about her and her mom. And that's all that Jess does in the revival.
But damn, does he look great.
Oh, damn, does he look great. Yeah.
Woo. Yeah, man. At least the last we see Jess, he's doing amazing. He had a full arc. He spited all the odds, opens a book, not only publishes a book, but opens a bookstore. And when Rory comes back, and even though he makes that comment about love, he doesn't grovel. He doesn't try to win her back. He's just he just
accepts it.
That's really unfortunate.
That sucks.
But Jess is the MVP winner. Yes. Also, the way you were like, why are you not at Yale was so, you said it just like Jess, and it was great.
Yeah.
You can tell you've seen that episode.
I can only hear it that way.
Yes.
Why are you not at Yale? That's how he talks when he sticks his little neck out when he talks. Because he's like a little mafioso.
Yes.
So why are you not at Yale?
I mean, we discussed. He's Sylvester Stallone's, mini-me.
Little mini-me.
Well,
is he actually Italian? Is he an Italian-American? Milo Ventimiglia?
Yeah, if he's not, is it a fake name? Was he like, I feel Italian, so I'm going to pick this name. He's got to be.
Yeah.
I've never looked it up, though.
I'm about to look it
Milo
up.
Ventimiglia, I mean, come on. He's Italian or Greek.
His father is of Italian and Sicilian descent.
There we go. Ooh, he's Sicilian and everything. Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Tell Albie.
Nice.
White Lotus season 2. You should watch it. You as in the listener, not Aimee.
Right, yeah.
I've been there, done that.
One of the more popular searches is Milo Ventimiglia related to Sylvester Stallone?
Absolutely incredible. The world needs to know.
Mm-hmm. They're like, be straight with me.
They're like, but really.
Yeah,
well,
so he's half Italian. That makes sense.
honestly, I don't know if it was ever the intent originally to bring Jess back, but I'm so glad they did, even though he and Rory never get back together, because I love that they were like, not only is Milo, I feel like it was a Castiel situation. Like Milo was so good at Jess. They were like, you know what? We're going to bring him back and we're going to write him a whole arc. And they did.
He was so popular too.
Yes.
I mean, everyone loved him as Jess. And I'm so glad he came back in the revival because I think at that point everyone was so obsessed with him in This Is Us.
Yes.
And they were like, if you do not bring him back, we will riot. We won't even watch.
There will be a riot on this building. Promise?
I think it's beautiful that he seems to be the only one in her life that knows her so well, and she feels so seen by him that him disapproving of what she's doing can strike through to her core quicker than Lorelai.
Yep. Especially because he hasn't been there. It's one thing when your friend who's been around and been watching it happen and is like, yo, what are you doing? But for someone you haven't seen to show up and after 2 days be like, who are you going on? Like that shakes you to your core. Like, and Jess is the type of person who would call her out on it and not just leave and be like, don't know what that was about.
Yeah. I remember the very first time that I watched that. I was like in high school and I was finally watching it through like for the first time, like all the way through for the first time. And I was like living for that moment when Justice walks through the Gilmore gates. I was like, what? And then like the whole episode, I was just so excited because he was just like, you're a stupid bitch. What's going on? And I was like, right? And then she started to clean herself up. It is. Yeah. But then I got all mad again when she didn't just start dating him at the bookstore opening.
I know.
Oh, an idiot. Ultimately, though, I am excited to talk about Logan.
Me too.
He's not next, but I'm excited to talk about him.
I was just about to say I can't wait till we get to Logan, especially so I can talk about my thoughts on Mitchum Huntsberger and that whole situation.
Yes, that is going to be a tantalizing conversation. Next up in Gilmore Boys will be Christopher Hayden.
I, for a hot second, forgot that we haven't talked about Christopher yet.
Yeah. So technically, I would need to talk about Luke first, but Christopher comes back and they have that fling before she ever gets with Luke. So I thought it would be more appropriate to go Chris then Luke.
Well, I absolutely also don't want to end on Christopher. We have to end on Luke.
Yeah,
or Logan, you know.
Yeah, we will end on Luke and Logan because I will have to talk about Jason.
Yes.
Before Luke.
I will have to talk about Jason. It's okay. I'm so excited. I'm ready to just lay into Digger.
Well, wait, what I might do is do Chris and Jason in one.
Actually, that's a good idea.
Episode. So then I can start Logan
and
then do Luke. Yeah, and we don't have to like go back and forth because I don't think there's enough of Jason.
There's not enough
Chris
of Jason
to really have their own episode.
Yeah, there's probably just enough Christopher, but we won't really like elaborate on him. But there's definitely not enough Jason. It would just be us just shit talking.
Yeah.
How much we hate him.
Yeah. So can't be doing that. I'm sorry. I'm so fidgety. You're going to listen to this and you're going to be like, what the fuck is she playing with? And I'm sorry.
It's okay. I've hit my mic cord so many times. I need a mount.
Yeah.
I'm just over here like.
I need new headphones. I need some sort of situation for my mic as well. Yeah. This is.
We're really good. Hey, we did it.
We did it. We tried to record. We tried something new.
And we're almost to 20 episodes. Aimee, did you see we've reached 500 downloads?
I did see that. That's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. Yeah. All right. Well, so then next will be Smallville and Lois season 6.
Woo. Are you going to do 2 parts?
I don't know. I'll have to see how long my notes are when I get through season 6.
Okay.
Maybe not. Maybe not, because there's a lot of like Lex and Lana in season 6 too that I could probably skip over. And then
that's for the best.
The first season that might be like 2 parts might be season 8. Because that's the money season, man.
Yeah, that's when he starts working at the paper, right?
Well, he starts working at the planet, at the beginning of season 8. Yep.
Yeah. And that's when he's Superman. I mean, that's when Superman is Superman, the Superman we all know and love.
Yes, the red blue blur, as they call him.
Those last 2 seasons are pretty hefty.
Yeah, there's 8, 9, and 10.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
all right, and I'm excited to edit this video and venture into the world of YouTube.
Yeah, you'll have to cut out all the parts where I have a panic attack and smoke weed on camera. Okay.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, I might leave the first breakdown.
Okay.
Just for authenticity, you know?
Okay. Yeah, make me more relatable.
Yes. Like 2 episodes ago, even though you just said you haven't watched Bailey, 2 episodes ago, she'd had like a Red Bull and 2 Diet Cokes. Did you watch that one?
No.
She goes, I feel like I'm being weird. Am I being weird? And she's like, I did have a Red Bull and 2 Diet Cokes because I didn't know Diet Coke has caffeine in it.
Oh no.
Now I do.
Bailey.
And she was, because like there was a part where she was like really talking with her hands. At one point her hands up here and she's like, my hands up here because it's like the 3rd floor. And I was just like, I loved it though, because I was like, yes, Bailey, live.
Well,
okay. Well, anyway,
I have to pee.
So do I. Oh my god.
Yep.
Well, hey, amazing work.
Thank you.
We love Jess.
We love Jess. Heart Jess.
Heart. That,
Team Jess.
Do that like Gen Z heart thing with your fingers. I don't know how to do it. Yes. Even though you're a millennial, nailed
Team
it.
Jess. It hurts. Like, just do that.
Hashtag Nelson nonsense.
Wow.
Yeah, so if you're listening and you don't already, you can follow us on social media and or send us an email if you feel compelled. And you can find all of those links at linktree/n&n-pod. And we'll soon have a YouTube channel. We'll drop that on the next episode because I don't know what it is yet. Wow.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
All right. Thanks for watching or listening. Catch you next time.
Catch you on the flippity flip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, love you.
Okay, love you.